In the grand tapestry of geopolitical discourse, where the interplay of ideas resembles a Byzantine mosaic, Hasanabi, in his recent reaction to Destiny's musings on the Israel-Palestine conflict,
separate people, although that's really hard to say for the Gaza Strip. I don't know if that's true for Gaza.
In Gaza, who do not like Hamas, who are not part of Hamas.
Is that true? Because
I don't understand why. Oh, God. This is like, I don't understand why he takes this position when, like, it's not that hard to find evidence to contradict this statement. Like, every time I see clips of Destiny, it's always like very confident, but also confidently unsure. But because he's like channeling State Department propaganda, it oftentimes is just left unnoticed. Like, people don't look at it and go, wait, what do you mean? You're not really sure? Okay, well, how about you get sure? Like, you could look it up, right? And he always invokes plausible deniability so that people can turn around and go, yeah, well, he said he was not necessarily sure. And I don't really understand it. Like, there is a way that you can become sure. There is polling that is done consistently, right? You can do that. I don't know. I mean, this is like, I haven't kept up at all with what Destiny has said about this stuff, with the exception of like not knowing anything, demonstrably anything about Israel or Palestine, and immediately popping off with the pro sentiment and then working his way back to basically a two-state solution, as far as I understand, by reading a bunch of Wikipedia pages that gave him the self-assurance, while still simultaneously being lost on so many of the other very important, tangential, but albeit very important aspects of this conflict, like who the regional leaders are historically, and, you know, even in contemporary Turkish society and Syria and Israel. And for me, I feel like, yeah, he comes across very confident. He's very good. He's a skilled orator. He's very good at rhetoric. And he comes across very confident, but like, there's not really much going on behind that confidence as far as the information goes. His confidence has not been shaken. His confidence has not been shaken throughout this entire process. He's just the same level of confidence when he's talking about like how, yeah, there should be, I think, from the first day that he popped off all the way until, I suspect now. And it shocks me in general. I think I have the exact opposite problem, where I am grossly aware of the lack of knowledge that I have on a particular matter, because there's so much. Always, there's so much more to learn. So I don't have that same level of confidence. And then I think that makes people think that I am oblivious to the reality or something. Especially when someone that comes across more confident, that is a more skilled orator, can come in and just say, I'm right, and you're owned. Yeah, or stuff like this, like lacking knowledge about JDAMs and such. Like, things of that nature are the only instances where people can be like, well, there was a clip of you saying this is definitely a JDAM. Like, the audio signature looks like a JDAM, so that must be the only thing you've said about the matter, and not the hundreds of hours of coverage at all, or even the YouTube video. You could just watch that, you know? I guess the point of contention here is always, do you want to be led astray? There's a lot of comfort there. There's a lot of comfort there, because the broad majority of the American public in the Western world is very phobic. So you will find allies if you are comfortably reinforcing your implicit biases right? Or you can, I don't know, cut through all of that and potentially develop a different understanding of why people do things that they do in the region.
My understanding is Hamas has enjoyed pretty widespread support in Gaza since 2006.
When approaching...
That's not true. Hamas has never reached a governing coalition, never reached the same majority popularity that Arafat enjoyed in the first elections ever held. Hamas squeezed out an electoral victory that America forced the Palestinians to have in 2005. In 2006, and then on top of that, the election itself was conducted where there were secular parties that were running against one another that split tickets. Hamas was the anti-corruption party against the CIA-backed secular parties for the most part that had at this point shown the Palestinian people that trying to negotiate with Israel and also operating as a part of the Israeli security apparatus was only leading to more expansions in the West Bank. So the people demanded a different alternative. And yet that different alternative was only, 3% more popular? 3%.
Hasanabi, like an erudite navigator of the turbulent seas of debate, finds himself confounded by destiny's stake, a veritable Rubik's cube of assertions and ambiguities. With a furrowed brow, Hasanabi questions the foundations of destiny's arguments, contending that the labyrinthine corridors of evidence lead not to enlightenment but to further confusion. Destiny's confident posturing, Hasanabi suggests, is akin to the overconfident navigator who, in the fog of uncertainty, steers the ship toward treacherous reefs. In the annals of rhetorical strategy, Hasanabi unfurls a banner of critique against destiny's penchant for confidently straddling the fence of uncertainty. The alchemy of destiny's discourse, Hasanabi argues, often relies on the elixir of State Department propaganda, creating a cognitive dissonance where certitude and doubt dance a perplexing tango. Hasanabi's discerning eye pierces through the veil of plausible deniability that destiny artfully weaves around his statements. Like a wise elder unraveling the enigma of an ancient scroll, Hasanabi exposes the subtle artistry with which destiny evades the accountability that should accompany one's declarations. To navigate the labyrinth of information, Hasanabi proffers a compass to his audience, advocating for the perusal of polling data as a means to traverse the convoluted terrain of the Israel-Palestine conflict. He acknowledges his own lack of updated knowledge on destiny's evolving views, reminiscent of an archivist lamenting the incomplete scrolls of historical wisdom. Drawing from the annals of destiny's ideological metamorphosis, Hasanabi recalls the initial pro-Israel sentiments that once adorned destiny's rhetorical tapestry, now transformed into a mosaic advocating for a two-state solution. The echoes of destiny's ideological odyssey reverberate through the ages, a testament to the ever-shifting sands of geopolitical conviction. In a moment of candid self-reflection, Hasanabi unveils the disparity between his humility and destiny's towering confidence. The juxtaposition between Hasanabi's acknowledgement of his own ignorance and destiny's unwavering self-assurance forms a chiaroscuro of intellectual humility against the backdrop of rhetorical bravado. Hasanabi, akin to Socratic irony, acknowledges the accusations of his detractors, who brandished the sword of criticism regarding his purported lack of knowledge on certain topics. In response, he unfurls the scroll of multimedia coverage, challenging the naysayers to venture beyond the confines of their echo chambers. The feud between Hasanabi and destiny serves as a cauldron of intellectual contention, a tempestuous exchange that both fuels and embodies the broader criticisms Hasanabi levels against destiny. Like two philosophical titans locked in a dialectical struggle, their discord becomes a microcosm of the larger issues Hasanabi perceives in Destiny's approach to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Firstly, the feud amplifies Hasanabi's frustration with Destiny's positions. It transforms the nuanced discourse into a theatrical spectacle, a clash of ideological gladiators where the stakes are not only the nuanced understanding of a complex geopolitical issue but also the pride and credibility of the combatants. Hasanabi, in his verbal jousting, unveils the intricacies and contradictions he sees in Destiny's arguments, turning their disagreements into a public spectacle that invites scrutiny and reflection. The feud becomes a battleground where Hasanabi criticizes Destiny's confident yet ambiguous stance. By engaging in this intellectual duel, Hasanabi points to the inconsistencies in Destiny's rhetoric, laying bare the pitfalls of straddling the fence between certainty and uncertainty. The public nature of their disagreement acts as a magnifying glass, intensifying the scrutiny on Destiny's approach and inviting the audience to question the coherence of his perspectives. With the deftness of a geopolitical tightrope walker, Hasanabi addresses Destiny's assertions regarding Hamas and their purported widespread support since 2006. He navigates the historical labyrinth, distinguishing between the ebb and flow of electoral fortunes and the nuanced dance of political ideologies in the Palestinian arena. In the shadow of Destiny's assertion, Hasanabi, a sagacious bard of geopolitical balladry, contends that Hamas never achieved the same electoral majesty as Arafat did in the initial elections. The narrative brushstrokes paint a picture of a divided electorate, torn between the secular and the religious, seeking an alternative to the labyrinthine negotiations with Israel. Hasanabi, akin to a Socratic interlocutor, challenges not just Destiny's positions but the very philosophical foundations upon which they rest. The Sisyphean task of reconciling confidence with uncertainty becomes, in Hasanabi's gaze, an ethical labyrinth where the minotaur of inconsistent reasoning lurks. Destiny's rhetorical sword, Hasanabi argues, cuts not only through the underbrush of geopolitical discourse but also through the thicket of ethical considerations. In the grand theater of political philosophy, Hasanabi raises the curtain on Destiny's plausible deniability, framing it as a moral curtain behind which one can hide from the consequences of their convictions. The philosopher within Hasanabi discerns the moral implications of this evasion, questioning the responsibility that ought to accompany one's influence over public opinion. To traverse the ethical terrain, Hasanabi unfurls the scroll of polling data as a moral compass, beckoning towards the moral imperative of an informed citizenry. In this Socratic call to self-examination, Hasanabi challenges not only Destiny's intellectual consistency but also the ethical duty of a public figure to navigate the labyrinth of information conscientiously. Hasanabi, the oratorical virtuoso, beckons his audience to ponder a different lens through which to view the motivations behind actions in the region. In a world where implicit biases can comfortably lead astray the unwary traveler, Hasanabi, like a seasoned guide through the caverns of discourse, urges a nuanced understanding of the geopolitical terrain. In the end, the clash of ideas persists, an eternal dance between certainty and uncertainty, where Hasanabi's voice resonates as a melody in the cacophony of geopolitical debate.